So as you may see, the super unique monster works, his minions also spawn in, and you can see his name also works. We've got the chest. Yeah, kind of crap. So, cheap ruby. I am not picky. The Camel works, which... Hello everyone, PLG here, and welcome to another episode of Diablo 2 modding. As you may have guessed by the title of this video, today we will be adding a new super unique monster and placing it somewhere on the on the map, on whatever map of the game. And for today we will be using a couple of files and a brand new tool. Starting with the files we will be using today, we will require, of course, MonStats.txt. That's just the usual. We will need MonPreset, which isn't an impressive file if you look at it. And then we will be using, of course, Superuniques, which is the file we will be doing the majority of work in. So I'll spoil a bit, but today we will be adding a super unique variant of the Ogre monster we added a couple episodes back. And actually, to place it on the map, because as you may know, if you've played this game, super uniques are the monsters that always spawn in the same place and have always the same name. So to actually make them spawn somewhere in a proper place, we will be needing a map editor for Diablo 2. And I have just the right tool for this. This is this program right here, DS1 Edit Loader. Well, normally it's DS1 Edit, but I have a version which also supports a graphic user interface, because normally it's just a terminal program. Okay, so actually we'll be using one more file which I've left up until I've introduced the program we'll be using, because the file we will be needing we will take from this exact program. So we need to go enter its, well, files and go into data. And in data we will find this fun little thing called Obj.txt. This right here will help us later on to place our new monster on the map. So let me just for a second clean this up, because I was actually testing it before making this video. So let's start with the very first file we will be using today, which is the Superuniques file. And let me describe it quite quickly. So this file has, of course, a lot of new columns. We don't really know yet what they do. So the first column, called Superunique, is actually the ID of this monster. So pretty much just like the ID in MonStats. Except in this case, all of the Superuniques use just their name as the ID. So that makes actually stuff a lot easier. The next column is their name. This column is literally the same as, well, no, it's not actually the same as ID, it's actually the column that gets used by the string tables of the game. So it's for displaying the name of the monster in game. Now the next column is very important, because it allows us to set what kind of monster is supposed to spawn. Of course, what kind of monster is supposed to be, the Superuniques is supposed to be. So, of course, we will be using for this the ID from MonStats. And actually, let me just scroll down and add a new row, because we will be I will be showing all of the stuff that's in this file on our brand new super unique monster, so we'll be doing two things at once. So let's set his ID to, let's call him Onion Skin. Then let's just copy it to his name. Then we will set his class as Ogre 1. And then we get to his HCIDX, which is his hard-coded index, which next consecutive number, pretty much. Then For his mon sound, we don't really need to change anything here, unless you really want to. But I won't be changing this because it's normally used to override the usual sounds of the monster by something else. Like for instance, here we have the Countess, which normally would use the sounds of the corrupt rogue, but instead it uses the Countess sounds. Then we have mod 1 to mod 3, and this right here is actually the enchantments that spawn on the monster, because as you may know, all the unique monsters and all the super unique monsters spawn with certain enchantments on them, like fire enchanted, extra strong, etc. But we can't really see all that much in here except for some random numbers. Well, let me tell you, those numbers aren't random, they're assigned to those specific enchantments. And you could technically look through other files for this, but I have prepared something in here. Well, actually not me, it's one of the users on Frozen Keep that where I found this thing. Wait a second, it's somewhere. So I will put the source of it on the screen, which is just a listing of all the enchantments and their IDs. So wait a second, let it load, of course. Alright, so here I've just added some colors for them so that it will be easier to read. And we can see a lot of them are just, you know, the usual things like extra strong, extra fast, cursed and such. But there are some interesting ones, like the monster spawning a poison cloud when killed. So pretty much just like the mummies in Act 2. Or maybe you want your super unique to spawn maggots after it has been killed, which is a thing that Duriel does actually. And there are some technical ones like ignoring armor or the minions dying alongside the monster. There is also one interesting enchantment in here. It's called Poison Enchanted. And actually you'd think that normally in the game it's not really used, but it is, by exactly 2 monsters. The first instance of it appearing in the game is actually Camel the Cursed, so the Unraveler super unique from Bale's second wave of bosses in, I think it was the Throne of Destruction. So he uses this thing, and the other instance of it being used is actually way further in the Uber bosses, because the Uber Undial, so Lilith, actually uses this enchantment too. Okay, so let's choose some enchantments for our super unique. In my case I'll use extra strong, so this will be 5. Let's select Poison Cloud, so 5, 10, and let's go Spectral Hit, 5, 10, and 27. Let's go. 5, 10, and 27. We can close off this thing actually in the background. And now we go to min group and max group, which is, of course, we've already seen it, it's the minimum and maximum group he can spawn with. So let's give him, I don't know, 4 minions. Then there is E class. E class being whether the monster is expansion or not from the expansion. Our monster, let's say, is for the expansion because it's just a rule of thumb, it's easier this way. Now, auto position is whether the monster always spawns in a single place, or does, I mean, okay, the best way to describe it is once you place the monster on the map, it's supposed to be in a single place where you've placed it, pretty much. So auto position is pretty much comparing using a shotgun to place the monster or using a sniper rifle to placing the monster. If you set it to 1, the monster will be spread in some kind of radius around the place where you've put it on the map, so it will spawn slightly randomly. Now, when you put it on 0, the monster should always spawn in the exact same place. Now, actually, I may have mixed those up because it's a little bit unintuitive, even though it's like 1 and 0, but we'll see. I'll set it to 0, so that it should always spawn in the same place. Stacks, the stacks column. The stacks column is for whether the monster can spawn a couple times in a single run. We'll set it to 0 because we don't need that. Replaceable. Now that's a mystery that I don't think anybody knows what it does except the original Blizzard employees, but probably they also forgot. At least I didn't find anything on the internet, and on Frozen Keep it was like unknown. So let's leave it like it is. Now utrans, all the three utrans columns, which are of course utrans for the normal difficulty, for nightmare and for hell, those are for the colors of the monster. They use the colors from the monster's palette first and then from run transform. So that means that there is actually a lot more indexes in this than in like other palettes. And we need to do actually something that your math teacher always told you, which is doing math, because you normally probably thought that you won't be needing math all that much in your life, and now's the chance to use a little bit of math in this to make your math teacher proud. Well, actually I don't know if your math teacher would be proud if you were making Diablo mods, but depends on the teacher. Okay, I completely went into a different direction, but let's select a proper U-transform for our monster. So let's say we want our monster to look like something like this. Well, wait a second, because Windows isn't really compatible with this. So we want this monster to use the 7th index from run transform. If we were to place it as the 7th index in here, wait a second. If we were to place it as the 7th index in here, well, it would use actually a completely different color than we want. And why is that? It's because the game reads the palette colors first, so it will read the 8 colors from the main palette first, and then it will still count the run transform indexes as if they were from the original palette. And as I mentioned before, in the main palettes there is always up to 8 colors. So let's say if there's not 8 colors, then there are some empty slots. But for this purpose, the first palette is 8 colors. So every single other color from run transform is pretty much shifted by 8 numbers. So let me just give you a quick formula for like calculating this, and I know it will be an extremely hard formula. Remember, it's 8 plus the number that's on the palette shift. So in our case, we had 7 in here, the index of 7. So we pretty much just do 8 plus 7, so that gives us, of course, 15. Now, if we were fancy, we can of course do something similar that the act bosses have, which is that on every difficulty they have different colors, but we're not being fancy today, so let's just go the usual thing. As for the treasure class, you could make your own, you can just borrow it from some other monster, and of course end of line needs a 0, because otherwise it will be acting up. So this part is finished. I know, we have a ready monster pretty much, but first thing, it's nowhere on the map, it doesn't know where to spawn. Second thing, the program that we have for map editing doesn't know that this monster exists. Third thing, we need to add it in MonPreset also. Let's start with the easiest thing. Grab his ID and let's go to MonPreset. MonPreset is extremely easy to manage. As you can see, we have the act and the place columns. Place. It's fun that it's called place, but the act column is for in which act the monster can spawn. Not only the monster, there are other things here. and the place column is what pretty much for the ID of the monster or whatever we want. So there are things like the gargoyle traps and other things that are pre-placed, like cows, camels, and like, you know, cane, Gid. And we will be seeing Gid once again in this video. So what we need to do here is to insert a new row. And when inserting a new row, always remember it gets inserted above the row you've selected. So in here we set act to 1 and place to place. The ID we set to onion skin. And save this thing, and that's all the job done in MonPreset. Now we go to Obj.txt. And in here, remember the first part of this file, because it will be coming up again soon. So we have here act, type. The type thing is actually very important. So type 1 is pretty much NPCs and pre-placed monsters. So stuff like, as you may see, Gid, Akara, Cow, Fallen Shaman, and some Fallens alongside him and stuff like this. And even gargoyle traps. And also some question marks. And a sharp symbol and a question mark. Now those are pretty much just free spaces for you to add your own things. So we will be using one of those. But there are also, this is just a little bit of an extra. So there are also type 2, types 2, type 2 objects in the game, which are all the, well, decorations alongside all the like usable, I'd say, not really items, like environment objects like chests, barrels, stuff like this. And also like the stones from the stone field. So we're not going in this direction actually today. We only need the first part, the type 1 objects. So in here you do not change the ID, that's very important. Do not mess around with the ID. I made a mistake once when I was learning this still, and I was changing the IDs and it was never go in this direction. So we need to add this guy, our guy, over here somewhere. I like to select the place, the free space after the last super unique that's present, which funnily enough is actually corpse fire, which it's funny because normally in the game it's in the reverse. The corpse fire is the first we find. So in the description we place onion skin, so that it will be displayed as onion skin. Objects.txt ID we don't need because it's not useful. Monstats.txt ID we actually can use. It's probably for the display, for how the monster gets displayed. The direction we set it to whatever, it's the direction, or it's random. Actually, let me resize to fit. Oh, much better. So here we have the base being the path to where the monster's graphics are located, and the token we not only monster graphics but nice. The token being PN, although wait a second, which token did I use here? PC, okay, let it be PC. Then we select NU as the mode, so the idle state, HTA, which is hand to hand, and then we have a lot of things we don't need because we're making a monster that doesn't use all of those, well, parts of its body. And then we have the color map. The color map being, well, the colors that will be displayed in the map editor. We grab the path for the color map and select its index. In our case, it's gonna be 7. So this right here is already pretty much finished. But what we need to do now is actually not enter this place right here yet, because we need to go into absolutely not those files, instead into our Diablo mods files. And we go into data, global, and we need to export from MPQ editor the tiles we will need. So in my case it's very easy to do because you just need to open MPQ editor and get d2exp.mpq, and from there you can just get those in the same directory as here, so data, global, tiles, and choose whatever you need. In our case we'll be adding our monster to of course the outer cloister. So wait a second, let me clean this up a bit because I do not like having such a mess in here. So we have a couple files here. Now how do we know which ones are, well, the most important ones? Well, that's the neat part. We don't. We just grab each one and shove them in the S1 edit and wait. Well, wait is the part that's different, maybe different in yours because you may have a faster computer. So in here you may see that maps not found. A couple of maps were not found. Those maps are the maps that are left in the game's files but are not used and are not listed in the game, by the game. So they are pretty much just leftovers from when the developers were making the game. We can 100% ignore those. And here we have a couple of those courtyards, which is the file name of the cloisters. So you may see there's courtyard 1, and courtyard 2, which we don't need because it's the inner cloister. So we're not changing it today. But that's not all we should be thinking about right now, because the first thing to do in this in this program is to set it up correctly. And to set it up correctly, you open Options and go into Configure Editor. Within Configure Editor, you may notice there are those, well, paths, pretty much paths to each of the most important things for this program. So in my case they're already filled up, but you will probably have empty space right here, and all you do is literally just write in, or explore your computer for the proper files. So how do we open up? Because right now we only have some basic information that probably isn't much needed for us at this moment. Well, it will be one day. It will be one day, I promise. But how to open those up? Well, there are two options. We can go into File and Run, or we can do it the fancy way and press Ctrl plus R, which is just the shortcut. So now we have our map. This right here is one of the variants of the outer cloister, and wait a second because I completely forgot to remove some things from it. Alright, so as I mentioned, this program allows us to explore and change the maps in Diablo. So in this case we have a preset map being a map that always has the same layout, or has one of the same layouts pretty much, because there are some generated maps. Those are called the maze type maps, which always have different paths and stuff like this, like the outdoor maps of Act 1 or the desert maps of Act 2. But there are some preset ones, like right here, the outer cloister and the inner cloister too, actually. And as you may see, this one actually is the variant, because funnily enough, when it comes to the outer cloister, it has a couple of variants. There are exactly 3 variants of it, which differentiate with the pattern in the middle right here, and with the place where there is an exit to the barracks. So this variant right here is Court N, Courtyard North, which, well, makes sense. This is one of the variants. There is also Courtyard W, Courtyard West, which has a fancy mountain, right over fancy fountain right over here, and the exit to the barracks is placed in the left upper corner. We also have the last variant, Courtyard East, which has a slightly different like plant pattern in here. The waypoint is placed in a different place, and also the exit to the barracks is placed in the lower right corner. So what do we do now? Because currently I just explained a bit about this program, but we're kind of we got nowhere pretty much. So first thing is actually changing the tool we're using, because currently we're using the tile tool, which allows us to delete tiles, change tiles. Also very important, if you ever get confused in this program or remove something or something, you undo by Ctrl U, not Ctrl Z like in most programs. So we need a different tool, because with this tool currently we don't really have any ability to, place monsters on the map. We can only change the tiles. So what do we do to change this? Well, we press Tab. And right now we're in object mode. In object mode you have access to, well, objects pretty much. So stuff like waypoints, which are type 2 objects actually. And funnily enough, those waypoints are the functional part of a waypoint is only the fiery torches around it. The bottom part is actually simply tiles. Now, right here we also have a object of type 2, which is the rogue fountain. And, well, if you remember correctly, our monster is of type 1, which is of course of no problem, because you can simply just try and insert him somewhere. And now that was a very important tip, because that's how we place those new entities, those new objects. We use insert, so the button above backspace, which we normally do not really use, and if you're on Linux it's extremely irritating because it replaces your words in the terminal. So let's analyze this place a bit. So currently the outer cluster is kind of boring, because you usually just go to the barracks, and the other two wings of it are, well, there's nothing. So let's make them a lot more interesting. In this case we have the exit on this side, so on the opposite side I'll put our super unique monster. So we press insert, and wouldn't you know it, it's Gid. I've mentioned that he will be appearing once again. That's because he is the, well, default entity, default object placed by the game. Let's delete one of those Gids. And how do we change him into something else? Well, we right click on either his, well, first we select him and then we just right click. So in here you can see all the type 1 well, objects. So pretty much monsters and NPCs and Superuniques and stuff like that. So remember that I mentioned that we will be seeing the obj file once again. Well, we see it right here, because if you look at this, it's almost the exact same pattern. So we go down, and in here you can see onion skin. We can change this to onion skin, and he's absolutely not being displayed, which isn't a problem, he will still be working. So we've placed him over here. Now that leaves us with a single wing that's, well, empty. So what do we do with it? Well, we can put a treasure chest in here. So we will be, that's an absolute extra for this episode, which is inserting type 2 objects. Once we insert our grid in here, we can select in this upper place here type 2. And type 2 are pretty much, the objects that we can interact with. So in our case we can select just Sparkly, which has an ID of 111, and is pretty much at the end before the zeros start. So let's select it, and here we have it. So, but that's kind of boring, because it will be just a chest with no difficulty of getting to it. So let's give it some guards. In this case, let's select... who do we take? Alright, random unique monsters, why not? Okay, so we're fine, right? Well, no, you see, I mentioned that this preset map, the outer cloister, actually has a couple of variants. And in the current situation, onion skin would spawn, and onion skin and this chest would spawn only 1/3 of the time. Because the other 2 times, you can see... Wait a second, of course I left this. Now, as you may see, in the other maps, we do not actually have our super unique. And also the treasure chest is also gone. So we place them here. Let's insert. Here we'll have onion skin. And up here, on the opposite side where there is nothing, we can have the treasure chest and of course random unique monsters with minions. We of course need to save those. That's like, I'll always put a high pressure on this. Always remember to save your things. So on the first file we already have it. On the second file we don't have it. On the third one we have it. I just kind of messed up the order, but no matter. So right over here is the exit. We already had onion skin over here, so let's put him over here. Insert onion skin. And insert type 2. Where is this? Chest sparkly, of course. And let's say once again we can also put a camel in here. I don't know why, but we can. You know, wait a second. Which variant of the map did I have? I think this one. Yes, this one. Alright, so let's see whether the camel will work. If not, then I guess I'll just cut this portion out because... Alright, so oh, I didn't mention this. Escape, and then you can press save and quit. Okay, now very last important thing to remember if you're adding a new monster, which is once again not in this file, and actually I should probably disable this file right now, is to go into data in your mods folder and go into local, and you know the drill. You just add the proper string for it. In my case I put it in expansion string, and we go down. You see, I already added it. So let's open up the game and see whether this works or it's buggy or something. Right. Of course, a modded character. As you may see, the camel works, which is the least important part. Actually, an interesting fact, we could give him a path to walk around here, but that's gonna be left for another episode. Not just because it's, well, content for another episode, but also because I kind of don't know yet how. Okay, so this side is the unique monster sound and the unique monster side, which we've killed over here because she ran out, and we've got the chest. Yeah, kind of crap. So cheap ruby. I am not picking. Alright, so we go further. Once again, a lot of... They can go and play around with the blades. So once we open this place, you see this right here? This right here is our super unique mod. So as you may see, the super unique monster works. His minions also spawn in, and you can see his name also works, onion skin. he's got extra strong spectral hit, and once we kill him, you will notice that he produces some interesting gases that for some reason stopped displaying, but you know, happens. So as you may have seen, it works. Now even if we go outside of the game, return, we can check that he will still be there. The camel is also still here. Let's just go over those guys. And here we have them. Let's clean up those guys around him. You see this? The poison cloud appeared for a second and it works fine. I could have actually walked into it, but no matter. So I hope you liked this episode. I hope you learned something new. I hope you will get to make your own favorite super unique that you've always wished was in the game, and you know, strap in for the next episode, because there will be a couple of course, other episodes for this, but to be honest, we're slowly gonna be probably wrapping up stuff with the monsters, because there isn't still all that much to do. Like, we're probably gonna be making a monster from complete scratch, which is the hardest part, and yeah, not much to do, pretty much. Once again, new unique still works, and then we'll be getting probably to maps, or either map making or item making, because the whole thing with items is just a lot more easy than map making, in my opinion. Or maybe I just have a grudge against level making because I'm still stuck on some crap with it. But okay, so this would be about it for this episode. Bye. The camel also says bye, and see you in the next episode.